A mum of one, 26-year-old Katie Evans, had stood in the courtroom and sobbed and wailed and cried after she was told that she would have to serve 21 months in jail. Now, Katie Evans was employed as a prison officer. Her role was to maintain order, act as an authoritarian, and help rehabilitate prisoners and make sure that they were well prepared for when they are able to integrate back in with society. Above all else, Katie, as a prison officer, was to ensure the safety of prisoners, all of them. Nevertheless, the idea that a mum of one and being a 21-year-old with the maturity of a petulant and warped woman with self-worth issues meant that Katie did not have the necessary tools to establish boundaries. She should not have been employed as a prison officer. She was easy to corruption. And that was the case in point that Katie shrugged off her duties as one, a mum. Her good standing and moral compass had been shattered, and worst of all, she ultimately lost her freedom when she had established a dangerous relationship with a convicted criminal who was a robber by the name of Daniel Brownley. Now, Daniel was an inmate at the prison where she was working, and of course, they too formed an illicit relationship. Daniel Brownley was an experienced robber. Now, he had been hauled in front of a judge and then jailed for 5.5 years back in 2016 after he was charged with handling stolen goods, attempted robbery, and also burglary. Now, Daniel had been released from jail, but ultimately he breached his conditions and was recalled. According to reports, Katie Evans, who is from the Hatfield area of Doncaster, had worked in H&P Doncaster from 2020. Not long after she started her job, she came into contact with Daniel on a specific wing. The relationship was described as intense and fiery from the offset, with Katie Evans beyond infatuated with the experienced criminal. Now, you can call it corrupted, smitten, head over heels, infatuation. Being only 21 years old at the time, Katie was easily persuaded, manipulated even, and she was classed as immature. She had limited real-life experiences and took pride in the fact that someone as notable as Daniel Brownley had started conversations with her. Talk usually started with things like hello, and then escalated with looking good or show us you know what. Comments and innuendo that should have immediately been shut down between prison officer and inmate. However, Katie accepted them as banter, and she even looked forward to it. Now, Katie responded to the glances that Daniel would dart her way. She soon found herself quickly being around Daniel for no reason, and before long, Katie had access to Daniel's number from a mobile phone that he was not allowed to have. Now, phone logs showed that she had a private number for Daniel, where over 140 calls had been exchanged between the pair of lovers after Daniel had a SIM card smuggled into the prison. The judge noted that the SIM card smuggled into the prison had nothing to do with Katie, so she was not responsible for that. However, she had Daniel's number. By right, she should have dubbed him in that he had a SIM card and also a phone. His cell should have been spun. Now, out of the 140 plus calls, phone records showed that Katie and Daniel had 39 conversations with each other in a 24-hour period alone. Daniel had a gift of the gab. He was smart, effectively classed as good looking, and he had the prison officer so smitten that she actively became a criminal herself. She held the convicted robbers illegally transferred money from various bank accounts, so Daniel and his gang could access cash to further their criminal business, and that was dealing. Katie even helped Daniel obtain a better standing on his wing among other prison officers, as Katie had willingly acted as his eyes and ears and would regularly tell Daniel when cells were going to be spun, what person's security were going to target, and when prison officers were scheduled to come round with scanners that could detect prohibited mobile phones. Again, at 21 years old and a mum, Katie thought her connection with Daniel was going to survive the plight of their roles, one being a prison officer while the other was a full-fledged criminal in prison. During the phone calls that could last up to an hour, Katie was on record referring to herself as Daniel's queen. The besotted couple talked about their future and all the adult things they wanted to do with each other. It was also alleged that Katie had admitted that she performed an act on Daniel while in the prison, putting herself in a compromised position. Use your head. Other aspects of the conversation turned to Katie Evans collecting payment for weed deals on behalf of Daniel, and it was also alleged that the easily manipulated woman gleefully collected at least £1,000 in direct money on Daniel's behalf. In court, the judge commented that Katie had referred to accepting at least £1,000 in direct money on Daniel's behalf, but the judge did admit that he couldn't say whether that was a fact or if it was Katie talking big about a situation that she was in a relationship with a criminal, because again, she referred to herself as a queen and having a criminal boyfriend. She liked that excitement, that danger element, so this could have been bravado. It was taken as a fact that Katie could not separate her work life from her home life, despite being a criminal herself. Again, Katie should have gone to work, finished their shift, and then continued to be a mom to their child. Now, the two cunning adults tried to conceal their relationship by making measures. One of the measures that they did was they used fake names when messaging each other in the event that the phone would be confiscated. Now, Katie Evans had the gall and the tenacity to cry and sob and wail when she was arrested and then taken in front of a judge when she was found guilty of misconduct in a public office. Now, as customary, Katie's defense team alluded to the fact that Katie was young at the time, being 21 years old, and Daniel was an experienced criminal who was older. It says that Katie was immature and she lacked real life experiences, and she was easily persuaded and easily manipulated. It also says that Katie did accept that she had done wrong and put herself in a compromised position, but again, there was hints and elements that this was not her fault. Effectively, they tried to paint the young mom as a victim. Now, Judge Richardson, who oversaw the case, commented that Katie Evans' behaviour was a serious manifestation of corruption that undermined the public confidence in the prison system. However, any crimes that are committed against the victim, if you ask them how they believe that prisoners are treated in prison, they would say that the prison is already shattered. And it seems like criminals have it easy. They have access to tablets, they have access to phones, they have access to gyms, and they have access to games and computer consoles. They're living their life, which means that prison is no longer a deterrent. And of course, anytime someone's sentenced to 2 years or 5 years or 6 years, once they reach that 40% of serving their time or the halfway point, then they are eligible for early release. Where's the punishment element in that? Now, the judge also said you were manipulated by a serious criminal to assist him. Your misconduct materially affected the good order and discipline of the prison. You not only had some form of intimacy with the prisoner, but you also assisted him in his conduct within the prison in terms of handling money for him and also sharing prison information about him with him. And Judge Evans added, whether that was money relating to Class A or Class B, or it was legitimate, is neither here nor there. You are not permitted to handle the money of prisoners. You certainly boasted, whether it was true or not, that £1,000 connected to weed was handled by you. You shared information about the prison which he had no business to know. You discussed prison arrangements in relation to him, and you communicated with him by using a false name in order to camouflage your real identity. Now again, Katie Evans' defense team told the court that Katie was immature and vulnerable at the time of the offences. He also says that she was manipulated by Daniel Brownley and ashamed of her behaviour. Now the judge says that initially she would have to serve 2 years in prison, but it was downgraded to 21 months as an act of mercy due to her young daughter. Now Katie waved to her family as she was led away to serve her jail sentence. Does the crime match the sentence? Let me know. Stay safe.